They closed the Ashburn Tunnel in '79 after the long night. A pile-up, a tanker fire, smoke so dense it was like driving inside a bruise. They built a bypass over the ridge, shut the portals, and left a mile of concrete and tile to the bats in the echo. Now the state's running fiber through it. Cheap, fast, out of sight. They hired me to spend one night inside, walk the maintenance catwalk, tag hazards, and recommission the old ventilation fan so crews don't choke on dust tomorrow. It's just concrete, I tell myself. Concrete, tile, and a mile of stale air. At 9:17 p.m., I badge through the east portal door, roll a cart the size of a dishwasher, meters, anemometer, thermal cam, battery lights, and clip my radio to my shoulder. The sodium lamps buzz and smear the tunnel the color of an old penny. The air tastes like brake dust and coins. A hand-painted sign left over from another decade says, "Emergency telephone every 440 feet." And below that, in Sharpie, "Don't stop." Someone drew an arrow pointing west. The fans are still dead. The tunnel still breathes. The catwalk runs like a narrow sidewalk above the right lane, steel grating that sings under boots. Every 40 feet, a drain. Every 100, an expansion joint, metal teeth snugged into concrete. My headlamp throws a tidy cone. Everything beyond it feels like a room that hasn't made up its mind. The anemometer barely stirs, 0.3 meters per second. No draft, no crossflow. Good. Halfway to the first emergency phone, I pass a soot shadow on the wall. Human height, arms lifted across the face. I've seen heat prints like that in burn rooms. Bodies shielded tiles from smoke. This one's crisp, like the night wrote around someone and never bothered to erase. I log it. Legacy shadowing, east side, 0.07 mile. The first phone sits in a red niche. The handset is black bakelite, cracked at the seam, its curled cord stiff with age. A placard above it reads, "Push and wait for operator," and then pasted over it in yellow, "Out of service." When I rest my fingers on the box, the metal is colder than the air. The anemometer ticks to 0.6 meters per second for no reason at all. My radio hisses like it wants to confess. I keep walking. At 0.10 mile, the drains hold pooled water. Not a lot, enough to show the lamps shivering. Something disturbs the surface, rings that march outward and die. No drips from the ceiling, no sound at all. I step, and the rings answer. The phone at 0.12 miles rings. I don't mean my radio. I mean the red niche, dead placard, dead fan world, ringing like a small brass hammer, polite enough to wait between taps. I do what you do in a profession that pays you for judgment. I don't answer. I watch. The light hums. The phone rings again, twice, and then a third time, each a little slower, like the tunnel is trying to remember how to do this. The anemometer jumps to 1.4 meters per second, a whisper of wind on my cheek from behind me, east to west. Ventilation's off. There shouldn't be movement at all. East desk, you picking any pressure change? I ask the radio. Static answers, then a voice with the damp shape of a person speaking from a bathroom.
You're good, Martinez. Fans are cold, showing zeros. Copy, I say, and touch the earpiece like that will improve physics. The phone niche stops mid-ring, as if it heard the operator and felt embarrassed. I lift the handset anyway. Old habit, you collect data. The earpiece is warm. I know that makes no sense. It smells like old coffee. I hear breath, slow, shallow, like someone who ran and then remembered how to stand still. I lower the handset without saying a word. The cradle switch depresses a fraction late, as if it doesn't want to let go.
I start counting joints. It keeps your mind from sliding places your boots don't follow. 1, 2, 3. The teeth glint, oil black, a rhythm older than me. At joint 12, a chalk mark appears on the parapet. 12, circled. Under it, another mark in a child's slope. Don't stop. The circle is smeared like someone palmed it. The chalk is new enough to dust my glove. I step over the joint and feel the brief sag of metal spanning a gap. Down in the drain, another ring rips outward like a coin was dropped from no height at all. The thermal cam shows the ring as a pale halo, cooler than the water, but not by much. The concrete around it holds its own heat, like a memory. Westward, a shuttered service alcove stands open by 2 inches. Inside, a broom fossilized with tar, a bucket, a single shoe with its laces tied together. The shoe points east, toward the portal I came from. There's a hairline crack across the alcove tile in a ripple pattern like the surface of a pond. I run my finger over it. It's not a crack, it's a scorch, black on white, drawn by heat, flowing in waves. The radio pops. "Wind's coming," the operator says, and I can hear the grin he thinks I can't hear. Kidding. He coughs. "You fine?" I say peachy. The anemometer reads 1.8 meters per second. My cheek hairs know before the digits do. The tunnel is starting to breathe.
Air moves, then it doesn't. Then it moves again. These shallow pulls, like the whole mountain is learning how to inhale. It comes from the east, goes west, pauses, and returns like a tide trying to make up its mind. With every pulse, the sodium lamps flicker a fraction, as if brightness floats. I pass 0.25 miles and am greeted by a run of tiles darker by a thumb's width along their lower edge. Smoke line. I've seen the photos. Brake lights trapped in fog. Tacky rubber on hot aggregate. A tanker giving up what it had to give. My headlamp picks out little blisters in the glaze, popped by heat decades ago, and still puckered like regret. Someone pressed a child's hand in the soot there while it was soft. 4 fingers, no thumb, like they were lifted in a hurry. The print sits too low for an adult. The phone in the next niche doesn't ring. It clicks. A tiny relay says yes to something I didn't ask for. I lift the handset. "Operator?" I offer. My own voice comes back delayed, exactly as long as it would take to walk to me from 0.30 miles and say, "Operator?" I put the handset down without swearing. The relay clicks a little no this time. Air pressure bumps my eardrum. 2.2 meters per second. The fans are off. The mountain exhales. At 0.33 miles, someone screwed a plaque into the wall. A small bronze oval scabbed with verdigris. In memory of 12 passengers lost 1:15:79. A vinyl flower, faded to the color of tea, hangs by a zip tie, gone brittle. The tile below the plaque is cleaner than the rest. People touch memorials without meaning to. I do too. My glove comes back dotted with dry grout. The anemometer hums 2.6 meters per second and stays there like the tunnel found a pace. Ahead, the black ovals of the ventilation duct inlets look like mouths politely closed. The catwalk kinks around a recess. In the dark of that recess, a shape stands that is a bag of rock salt or a person until my light decides. It decides. A pallet of brown jugs, lids sealed with paraffin. A label on one jug, Stanley Ventilation, Test Smoke. The jug bulges a little, like it held its breath too long. When I step past, the jug wall snaps with a noise like a knuckle, and a fog as thin as silk lifts, then disappears as if someone drank it. My radio. "You still with me, Emb?" "I'm still with you," I say. "Check in at halfway," he says. "You'll hear the fans kick on east for 5, just before midnight. Don't be under a damper when they wind up." I look at the ceiling and the dark rectangles of dampers and decide there are more good places to be than there are dampers. I keep walking. The midpoint is marked by a green sign that reads 0.50 mile with an arrow that points both directions, like it's unwilling to choose. Somebody taped a picture under it, a square of sun-faded Polaroid. tail lights in a fog, 3 red points floating in milk. A Sharpie heart smiles in one corner. No names. On the wall here, the soot shadows are layered. A driver bent over the wheel. A passenger curled into a coat. A shape that could be a dog or could be a coat across a lap. They overlap in a crowd that doesn't want to be a crowd. The catwalk railing is warmer. The thermal cam shows it as a long white vein. When I tap the steel, it rings low and goes on ringing longer than physics suggests it should. The phone at 0.50 is missing its handset. Only the cradle remains, tape residue around it like a tan line. The call button is polished by so many thumbs it gleams. I press it because that's what the sign told me to do, 40 years too late. The ceiling dampers shiver. All the lamps between 0.50 and 0.55 dim, then flare, like a giant rolled under the concrete and shrugged. The anemometer touches 3.0 meters per second and holds the number with a steady, expectant patience. My lungs unconsciously match it. In, out, in, out. The mountain and I agree to breathe the same sighs. You feel the fans before you hear them. A pressure that makes your inner ear think of elevators. Then the sound itself. 12 small hums rising into a single animal. The east portal fans roll up together, blades catching dust that's too stubborn to fly and convincing it to try. My radio crackles with the operator's voice, Dopplered by his own hall. East fans test at 10%. Hold your hat. The anemometer yawns upward. 4.8, 5.6, 6.2 meters per second. The air's no longer a mood, it's a current. The catwalk vibrates right at the frequency that makes you think of bridges. I notch my cart against the parapet with a boot. A swirl of grit lifts in front of me, a small tornado you could hug if you wanted to be an idiot. It twists to the ceiling and prints itself on tile as a new smoke pattern, a slender lily of ash blooming in seconds. I didn't think tile could take a mark that fast. I was wrong. Every emergency phone niche hums. Not the bells this time, the transformers. They sound like a choir whispering vowels. At 0.63 mile, a damper groans and opens by accident. Rust letting go of rust. The blast of air from the duct hits like a cuff. Paper that wasn't there a minute ago skates along the catwalk grating and snags on my boot. I pick it up. It's an incident report, Ashburn Tunnel, 1/15/79. The signature is a scribble. The note at the bottom says, witnesses unaccounted 12. and under it, in pencil, a second hand, "We are counted." The fans throttle down at 12:06 as promised. The tunnel isn't finished. When the fans go quiet, the next thing you notice is how much more the quiet weighs. It's a blanket you forgot you were under. I'm writing quiet in block letters in my notebook when the radio says, like it just remembered, "Martinez, what's your 20?" I say, 6-5, heading west. Fans are behaving if you ignore physics. "Copy," the voice says. Then it says, "Do you hear me in the phones?" That's not a question an operator asks. "Negative," I say. "Try one," he says, and his voice is smiling again, like we're kids and he wants to see me touch the fence. The next niche phone is missing its dial tone. It has breath instead. I listen. In, out. The breath waits for mine and catches it. A second voice enters, paper thin, way back in the line. It uses my name, like it knows where the vowel sits in my mouth. "Martinez," it says, "keep walking." I don't hang up. I don't speak. I just set the handset on the cradle. The relay honors the gesture. The niche clicks like a throat. "East desk," I say to the radio, because I prefer one demon at a time. Static. Then we're not patched to anything. Something touches my sleeve. It's only air, but it chooses the one place I will feel like skin. You don't realize how loud tires are until you stand on concrete that carried them for half a century and now carries none. The emptiness makes your skull ring. The catwalk ends for 50 feet at a service pinch, and I have to drop to the lane itself. My boots leave prints in fine piston soot. The expansion joints in the driving lane are wider here. Someone welded the plates after the fire. The welds ripple like waves. At 0.77 mile, a chalk line crosses both lanes at a slant. Next to it, "Wait here." My brain suggests some bored worker in 1991, then rejects the handwriting as older. The chalk is brighter than it should be for chalk that old. I stand on the line because you don't walk past the word "wait" in a mile of tunnel and sleep well. The air presses harder on the back of my neck than the front. The mountain inhales down the west side, exhales back toward the east, and in between those two motions, there's a held breath that feels like the moment a crowd goes silent before the song starts. Something glows in the tile across the way. Not a light, a shine. I raise the thermal cam. A handprint, fresh, warmer than the wall by 3 degrees. The fingers are long. The thumb sits too low for an adult or too high for a child. The heat fades as I watch, but it fades last at the fingertips, like the hand didn't want to let go. The radio whispers, even though the operator speaks at a normal tone. You're almost at the west portal. I know, I say. I don't know if I'm relieved. The big steel gates at the west end are shut like a jaw. A sign above them, no entry, bypass open. A smaller door sits to the right, a man door with a crash bar, painted brown long ago that it became a different brown. I push the bar, it doesn't move. The lock is engaged on my side. On the wall, 4 emergency phones cluster like barnacles. One is a newer orange model from the early 2000s, the kind you'd put in when you wanted to pretend you still cared. I lift it. It produces a tidy tone. Operator, I say. My radio answers instead of the line. You see rain? I say, clear, dry, stars where stars go. I raise my headlamp to the transom window over the door. Beyond the wired glass, dark. No breeze finds the crack. It's locked in. Copy, the operator says, and something in his copy sounds like relief. I roll the cart under the emergency light and check the ductwork. West dampers closed, east at rest. The ducts inside the wall hum like a cathedral just before Mass. There's a maintenance panel here for the west fan room. The padlock has been cut and replaced by fresh tape. On the tape, do not spin, in a hand that learned to write with drafting pens. I peel the tape. The panel door breathes cool when I swing it. The fans aren't dead. They're asleep with their eyes open. The control face inside the panel is old analog. Needles, toggles, a rotary with a notch worn by one technician's favorite setting. The glass is clean. Someone loved this. Under the main selector, off, standby, low, high, there's a 5th position the stencil forgot. Purge, in faint pencil carved into paint. I don't touch it. Not because I believe in curses, but because I believe in engineers who hid features for a reason. The duct behind the panel thrums like a throat you've pressed your ear to. The anemometer reads 3.1 meters per second in a tunnel where fans are off. My radio crackles with a blip of someone else's channel. Truckers, maybe, bouncing off the ridge. You copy east? I ask. Loud, the operator says. Your board shows anything on west? Dead as church, he says, and then sorry like he remembered the plaque. I flip the selector to standby, because tomorrow a crew will walk through here, and I am paid to keep strangers alive. Relays clack in the wall like someone shuffling a deck. A damper somewhere far up tunnel opens with a breathy huff that makes the hair on my arms look at me. Air slides, only a little, but enough. The phones in their niches purr. Behind me, the orange phone rings once, gently, and stops. A child's voice breathes not into the handset, into the tunnel itself. "Keep walking," it says, and even the fans don't dare to answer. The mile back east feels longer than the mile west. That's true in every tunnel. You fight your own outline coming the other way. My headlamp draws a world that vanishes behind me as soon as I finish convincing it to exist. The phones stay quiet. The air holds steady at 3.0 to 3.4 meters per second, like the ridge made up its mind. At 0.80 miles, the chalk line that told me wait here has been crossed by a second line in a different hand, don't. At 0.77, the handprint I thermaled before is gone. In its place, a smudge broader than fingers, like someone rested a forearm. The drain at 0.70 gurgles either from my boots or from something in the grate remembering water. Halfway, the plaque again. I stop because not stopping would be weirder. I say the number 12 out loud for the empty concrete. The word sticks to my teeth. I keep going. At 0.58, a draft from a maintenance cross passage tastes like cold pennies. I raise my light into the cross. The floor is clean, the air still, the dust undisturbed except for 2 long streaks like someone dragged something heavy toward the dark. The radio says my name not like a question, but like a method. I answer because failing to answer feels like an invitation. You can tell when you're not alone in a tunnel. It isn't sound, not exactly. It's pressure, where a body displaces air. At 0.41 miles, my headlamp throws my shadow against tile, and another over it a fraction out of step. When I stop, it stops a heartbeat late. The late heartbeat is how you know. East desk, I say, and then don't add the rest because I prefer one witness. My anemometer twitches to 3.8, as if whatever is shouldering my air wears a coat. I pass a run of tiles where the glaze has bubbled like boiling milk. Painted over the bubbles, hurried and neat at the same time. If you can still read this, it is not over. The paint dripped, and someone wiped the drips with the heel of their hand. A smear of 5 ridges. Add it to your 12. The niche at 0.40 rings once. I don't pick up. It rings again, twice. I lift on the 3rd because I'm not a hero and because the rule of threes belongs to electricity as much as it does to fairy tales. The line breathes. "Return," says a voice that could be the operator if the operator drowned and learned to speak underwater. The mouth on the word is wrong. It puts the R behind its teeth. What, I ask, the stupidest question in the tunnel. The line clicks off. The niche hums as if pleased.
I hit .25, and the tunnel decides we're finished playing. There's a change you feel in the sternum before you hear it, the way a beehive changes key when someone shakes the box. The east fans spin up without permission. My radio hisses a stack of voices like a fast forward. The anemometer spikes. 7.5, 8.2, 9.0 meters per second. Paper on the catwalk lifts. Sand ticks along tile like rain. The dampers in the ceiling rattle open in order, east to west, a zipper. The west panel I put on standby answers with a clack that says present in a roll call. At the control face, the selector has drifted a 1/4 inch toward purge, even though the detents say it shouldn't. The phones all ring once at the same moment, and then, spooky kind, align in silence. "East desk," I shout into the mic. "You're lighting me up." "No," the operator says, and his voice is small in a big empty, the way wind sounds small in a canyon. Air roars in my ears like a freight. The expansion joints chirp, the plaque sings. The miles of duct exhale and inhale like a bellows that decided to be a lung. In the red niches, the little transformers get brave and sing. A strip of paper slaps my shin and sticks. I peel it. It's a library checkout card. Wrong story, wrong life, with due before rain stamped in purple and a list of names written in the same tidy hand. The last name is mine. My mouth tastes like copper and old water. The selector reaches purge, not with a click, but with a sigh. The tunnel breathes in, harder than a mountain should, and holds.
When the purge releases, it does it all at once. Every damper flings, every fan stands the air on end, and a mile of breath that hasn't been allowed to go anywhere for 4 decades tries on freedom and finds that it still fits. The roar is a white wall. Dust rises like old rain. The soot shadows on tile flex and undulate like pictures printed on rubber stretched by a child. For one stupid second, the shadows move where bodies should be. 12 shapes. I know it's 12 because you feel a number before you count it. The emergency phones open their mouths without ringing. Voices use the tunnel as a throat. I think I hear radio traffic from 1979. I think I hear someone laughing hard because laughing is what you do when you lose your map. Mostly, I hear breathing. The purge lasts 32 seconds by my watch. In those 32 seconds, the chalk "Don't Stop" on joint 12 brightens as if someone just wrote it. The pool at point 10 ripples like big rain fell somewhere this concrete can't remember.
My name comes back to me from half a mile away on delay, but this time it's not my voice. It's a small voice that puts the R behind its teeth. Martinez, keep walking. When it's over, the lamps settle and decide to glow. The anemometer floats down to 2.2 meters per second like a leaf. The selector sits a hair over purge and refuses to admit it. In my radio, the operator clears his throat and doesn't ask a single question that would make a report uglier. I walk to the east portal door because nights end. The door pushes when it should pull. The night outside is black and honest. The ridge breathes like a person asleep. I do the things you do when you don't know what you did. Log numbers, shut panels, leave the orange phone crooked to annoy the future. At 4:05 a.m. I step out, and the air out here smells mercifully like trees and tar. On my clipboard, under notes, I write, "A mile of air can learn to keep count. A body can be counted by air." Under that, without meaning to, "Don't stop." Then I add, because that's what people do, until you're out.
The state will run their fiber, and the tunnel will behave for them the way old animals behave for children. They'll ask me to sign off with my stamp and my witness number. I'll say yes, because the air outside is clean, and the fans will be on tomorrow, and the chalk will look like a joke. I will still count expansion joints when I can't sleep. I will hear phones ring in rooms that have none. At stoplights, under overpasses, I will feel a draft that isn't wind. And once a year, on the night the ridge breathes a little deeper, somebody will find fresh chalk at .50, a heart around 3 red lights, and underneath, in a neat hand that learned on drafting pens, "We are counted."